This content is produced by Pass the CSLB, an independent audio-first study companion for busy California B general candidates. I build these lessons from official CSLB study guide topics and reputable source-backed California materials, so you can study on the go. This is exam prep reinforcement, not legal, professional, engineering, or job-specific advice. Exam content is set by PSI and the CSLB and may change, so always verify current requirements against official CSLB materials. No exam outcome is guaranteed. Now let's get into it. Water follows grade. That is the central principle. If the finished ground sends water away from the building, gravity does useful work every time it rains or the site receives irrigation. If the finished ground creates a low spot beside the foundation, gravity does the opposite. It keeps delivering water to the most vulnerable edge of the structure. I think of positive drainage as a permanent gravity pump. It has no motor, no switch, and no maintenance schedule. The shape of the site is what moves the water. That is why finish grade is not cosmetic cleanup at the end of earthwork. It is a working part of the building's moisture protection. The field question is simple. From the foundation outward, where will water actually go? Do not answer from a rough grading plan alone. Look at the finished surface, the barriers around it, the point where the water is supposed to be collected, and the clearances that the final soil elevation creates. For exposed earth beside a residential foundation, the California baseline is a fall of at least 6 inches within the first 10 feet. The California Building Code expresses the same relationship as a minimum slope of 5%, or 1 unit vertical for every 20 units horizontal. Those are two ways of describing the same grade. The word finish matters. A crew can shape the rough grade correctly and still lose the required drainage after utility work. Backfill, landscaping soil, or final cleanup changes the elevation. The contractor has to verify the surface that will remain in service, not merely the surface that existed halfway through construction. Imagine a contractor who checks only the elevation at the outer edge of the yard. The outer point may be low enough, but a shallow depression can still sit directly against the wall. The overall numbers may look reasonable, while the first few feet trap water. The correct inspection is continuous. I want to see a clear path away from the foundation without a reverse pitch or a pocket that interrupts it. The slope comparison on screen separates the three numbers that are easiest to mix up. Exposed earth uses 5%, which is the familiar 6 inches over 10 feet. An impervious surface beside the building uses at least 2%. A qualifying swale used where the full distance is blocked also uses at least 2%. The memory connection is this. Bare earth gets the steeper number. Smooth hardscape and the alternative swale use the smaller number. Do not turn that into a universal design rule for every site. It is the California baseline described in the residential and building code provisions covered by this lesson, and approved plans or local requirements may control a particular project. A concrete patio, walkway, or asphalt surface within the foundation zone is treated differently from exposed earth. The verified minimum is 2% away from the building. Over 10 feet, that is about 2.4 inches of fall. The lower pitch does not mean drainage is optional. It means the surface category is different. Concrete and asphalt are impervious surfaces. The contractor still has to form and finish them, so water moves away, rather than collecting at the wall, at a door threshold, or in an isolated bird bath in the slab. Suppose a homeowner asks for a nearly level patio because the furniture feels better on it. The contractor cannot solve that request by pitching the slab toward the house or by creating a flat strip against the foundation. The practical choice is to preserve the required drainage while coordinating elevations, transitions, and usable space. A visually flat patio can still have a measurable pitch, but the pitch has to be built into the formwork and verified before the concrete makes the decision permanent. For a simple calculation, multiply the horizontal run by the slope expressed as a decimal. A 20-foot impervious run at 2% produces 4.8 inches of fall. That is one calculation, but the field lesson is more important than the arithmetic. Verify the actual high point, the actual low point, and the uninterrupted direction of flow. The full 10-foot run is not always physically available, A property line, retaining wall, or another barrier may stop the site before the standard distance is reached. When that happens, the code allows drainage to be handled with drains or swales that ensure water is carried away. This is not permission to push runoff to the obstruction and hope it disappears. Surface drainage must be diverted to a storm sewer conveyance or another approved point of collection that does not create a hazard. The contractor should be able to identify the path from the foundation zone to that approved destination. A swale used for this alternative within the foundation zone must slope at least 2%. The swale is not just a shallow ditch with an attractive name. It is a controlled low path that receives water and continues carrying it. If the swale has a low pocket, ends against a wall, or sends water toward another unsafe location, the shape exists, but the drainage function does not. The decision matrix on screen keeps the field choices separate. When exposed, earth has the full distance, verify the 6-inch fall across 10 feet. When a physical barrier blocks that distance, verify an approved drain or swale and a complete discharge path. When the surface is impervious, verify at least 2% away from the building. Consider a hypothetical accessory building with only 4 feet between the foundation and a masonry wall. The contractor cannot create a 10-foot earth slope through the neighbor's property. The proper response is not to invent a steeper pile of dirt against the wall. The proper response is to follow the approved drainage solution, coordinate any required design input, and verify that the installed swale or drain actually reaches an approved collection point. This is also where the general B boundary matters. A contractor supervises and executes the visible, grading, and drainage work to match the approved documents and verified code requirements. When the approved drainage solution depends on civil design or surveying, the contractor coordinates the qualified professional identified for that work rather than improvising a replacement in the field. Good supervision includes knowing when a field condition no longer matches the approved solution and needs escalation. Finish grade also establishes the moisture clearance below exterior wood. Exterior wood framing, structural sheathing, and siding must remain at least 6 inches above exposed ground. The number may sound familiar because the earth slope also uses 6 inches, but the measurements answer completely different questions. One measurement is horizontal drainage performance, a 6-inch fall across 10 feet. The other is vertical separation, 6 inches from exposed ground up to exterior wood. Mixing those ideas is an easy mistake because the number is the same. Wood behaves like a bundle of tiny passages that can draw and hold moisture. The air gap between soil and exterior wood interrupts direct contact, reduces persistent damp exposure, and leaves a visible area where moisture or pest activity can be noticed. The practical inspection point is the final landscape elevation. Imported topsoil, mulch, and planter preparation can erase a clearance that was correct before the landscaping crew arrived. The clearance chart on screen keeps exterior grade separate from crawlspace clearances. Exterior wood framing, sheathing, and siding requires 6 inches above exposed ground. Under a crawlspace, wood floor joists require 18 inches, and wood girders require 12 inches from exposed ground. I use a location memory aid. Outside the wall, think 6. Under the floor, think 18 for joists and 12 for girders. The words outside and under matter more than the numbers by themselves. Imagine a landscaper adding a deep planting bed against engineered wood siding. The soil is now only 2 inches below the siding. Even if the bed slopes away, the wood clearance is still deficient. Drainage slope does not cancel a clearance requirement. The contractor has to correct the elevation and then recheck the drainage path created by that correction. A finished slope can be correct on Friday and wrong after the first substantial settlement if the backfill was not handled properly. The California Building Code requires the procedure used to establish the final ground level beside the foundation to account for additional settlement of the backfill. That requirement focuses attention on the condition beneath the visible surface. Foundation excavation disturbs soil. When loose backfill consolidates later, the soil near the wall can drop and create a trough. A surface that once moved water away may then reverse and collect water at the foundation. The contractor should follow the approved project requirements, Coordinate any required inspection or professional input, and avoid treating freshly raked loose fill as a permanent final grade. An improvised field assumption is not a substitute for the procedure specified for the project. A useful counterfactual is this: what happens if the outside edge stays in place but the backfill beside the wall settles by 2 inches? The original positive slope becomes flatter, and it may become negative near the structure. Water then follows the newly created low area. The visible finish is only reliable when the supporting soil and project procedure account for that future movement. Drainage is also a worker safety issue during excavation. California safety rules state that employees must not work in an excavation where water has accumulated or is accumulating unless adequate precautions have been taken. The important decision is not whether the crew can tolerate wet boots. Accumulating water can change soil conditions and the stability of the excavation. When water is present, the contractor must stop treating the excavation as an ordinary dry condition and make sure the required precautions are in place before employees continue working. Do not confuse this with the finish grade rules. One rule governs the safe condition of an active excavation. The other governs how the completed site moves surface water away from the building. They are connected by water management, but they apply at different stages of the work. For field supervision, I would reduce the entire lesson to a repeatable inspection sequence. First, identify the foundation edge and the final surface material. Is it exposed earth, impervious flatwork, or an approved swale condition? Second, verify the required direction and amount of fall. For exposed earth, remember 6 inches over 10 feet, equal to 5%. For impervious surfaces and qualifying swales, remember 2%. Third, trace the water all the way to an approved point of collection. A slope that ends in a trapped pocket is not a complete drainage path. Fourth, verify that the final soil elevation preserves the required wood clearances. Outside, exterior wood stays at least 6 inches above exposed ground. In a crawl space, keep the separate 18-inch joist and 12-inch girder clearances straight. Fifth, consider settlement. The final grade procedure has to account for additional settlement of foundation backfill. Recheck after work that can change elevations, including final landscaping and surface adjustments. Finally, when accumulated water is present in an excavation, do not allow ordinary work to continue unless adequate precautions have been taken. The final checklist on screen combines those supervision steps without adding a new rule. It asks you to identify the surface, verify the slope, trace the discharge path, preserve wood clearance, account for settlement, and respond correctly to water in an active excavation. The central memory is still the simplest one. Water follows grade. Exposed earth beside the foundation needs the steeper baseline of 6 inches over 10 feet, or 5%. Impervious surfaces and qualifying swales use at least 2%. Tight sites need an approved path, not an improvised dead end. Finish grade must preserve the exterior wood clearance and must be established with future backfill settlement in mind. There is an audio practice quiz for this specific episode on grading slopes and foundation drainage. It is audio-based. I read each question aloud, and you answer by tapping, so it works for people studying while driving, working, or otherwise on the go. Go to the description below this video. You will see a link that says Pass the CSLB. Tap it. It will take you straight there. Comment below with any questions about what I covered. Subscribe so I can help you stay on track through every episode until you get your license.